Good morning. We're on another walk. We're going into Horsley village this morning, and the plan is we're going to go up the hill the other side and have a look at Horsley Castle. We've talked about Horsley Castle quite a bit just lately, so we thought it'd be a good idea to go and have a look and see what's there. Not a lot, I don't imagine, but we'll have a look at the site and see what we can find. The first mile or so of today's walk was the same as that on the Coxbench walk, and so I've edited that portion out of this video to avoid repetition. We pick up today's trail at the bottom of the stone steps in Coxbench. We're getting close to the A38 now. Which is breaking the silence somewhat. It's a bit busier today than it was before. Don't know what the significance of that is. So we're in the middle of Coxbench now. Collection of cottages. Abundance of flowers at the moment. I think we're going to go up that lane which will take us up towards the castle. So this is a new route that we've not done, running parallel with the A38. You can no doubt hear the traffic, and these were all former stone quarries. That's looking back towards Coxbench and Horsley Lane. The A38, which will soon be leaving behind, thank goodness. So the entrance to Castle Farm, and at the entrance we have a little egg stall, which is useful to know, and a nice post box, pillar box behind. And we're going to take the path up towards the castle. That would have been a quarry as well. Whether there's been any tipping in it or not, I don't know. Over the years, maybe so. It's all fenced and locked now. And we're going to go up and over the stile. Begin the climb. So I'll be panting in a bit. Definitely an old quarry. Some old rocks there covered in moss, but I think here the ground would have dropped quite severely, and all this is fill. It's a bit like an abandoned railway with the silver birches taking hold of the earth. They tend to predominate where it's been filled in or it's old. So with the cattery on the left, as we come to this stile, we should get a view open out. No cats. Yeah, there's the view, and that's the view of Cock's Bench. And the Grange is the brick building. All the other buildings are stone. Onward and upward. More Cock's Bench stone wall in there. Maybe from the castle. A pair of buzzards just landed in that tree. You probably can't make them out on the screen. They've just flown past us. And now we've got a buzzard in the sky. Don't know if it's going to come this way. Hopefully it might. Don't know if you can see it. It's just picking the thermals up. To the accompaniment of a chiff-chaff in the wood. Pop the chain on and carry on ascending towards the castle. There really is something special about this time of year. Look at these buds on this tree. I think it's a sycamore. The leaves are just starting to open out, and that's a blackthorn, I think, at the back. It's in the shade, so you probably can't see it that well. But that there in the distance is the site of Horsley Castle. And what a beautiful view. You can still hear the A38, but apart from that and me talking, nothing but bird song. Another stone wall. Look at these trees. Beautiful. At this point the path divides, right or left. Either way will bring us round to the castle, but we're going to go left because there's a bit more of a view from this path over the valley. And we're going to look out for bluebells now, which hopefully there'll be quite a few. This is the odd one, but we haven't seen carpets of them yet. Hopefully there might be some up here. That's looking back with the sun behind us. There's a few bluebells, but there's not actually masses of them out yet. There's been some daffodils which have obviously gone past now. It's thought that these daffodils were brought here from Syria by knights attached to Horeston Castle who went with King Richard I on the Crusades in the late 12th century. One kind of daffodil has been identified as the daffodil of Syria. These, presumably their descendants, are now well established in the woods around the castle. Unfortunately, we're just a few weeks too late to see them at the best. And as we get to the top, we get to this little track, again with some more stone walls, tumbled down stone walls, and lots of wood ants. So I'm not going to stand still for too long, but when you get there, that's the remains of the castle outer perimeter wall, I think. Anyone that doesn't like creepy crawlies, look away now. That's a wood ant nest, and it's absolutely full of them. So I'm not going to stop for too long because they're on my boots. I know. So there we go. Leave them behind. So we're in the middle of what was the castle now. I've not been up here for ages, so it's all relatively new to me. I've been before, but such a long time ago, can't really remember what's here. I seem to remember some stone walls. But if the trees weren't here, there's a commanding. That way would be back towards Horsley, which was the manor held by the castle. That way would be towards Derby. That way towards Bredsall. But we're right on top now. I don't know what I'm standing on, but it's a mound, and underneath I presume it's just fill now, maybe rubble, earth. Nothing much left of the building. We'll go down there. Lots of brambles. Lots of rhododendron, which is quite an invasive plant, and it's certainly invaded the castle. A few bluebells down there. We'll go up here because I think we might be able to see what's left of the building, if it's not covered in ivy or rhododendron. Voila! That's a rock outcrop. It's not actually building. Excuse me. But there is some building stone above it. Just there. So I guess that would be the base of part of the castle. There's quite a deep pit there. Whether that would have been like a natural moat, I don't know. Obviously these trees wouldn't have been here when the castle was occupied, they would have obscured the view somewhat. The whole purpose of a castle is obviously as a defensive structure with good all-round visibility. It's still quite an impressive sight, even though the actual building has gone completely, apart from a little bit of walling. But this is Horsley Castle. And it was built by and owned by King John of Magna Carta fame. I think it was built in the 11th century. Obviously his time was 1200, 1215 Magna Carta. But it was a royal park, Horsley Park, owned by King John. Now we're up on the level of the rock. Be interesting to do an archaeological dig here, see what we could find. Although I don't think it was ever involved in any battles. It was built more to keep a watch over the manor. But that's about all there is of it. Now, just some rubble walling. Don't even know what that would have been. Maybe a keep, a staircase. Certainly not a big room. But that's the view from the top. If you can imagine it without the trees, it's a real 360-degree all-round view for defence. Doing my time team analysis, that looks a little bit like a wall, because there's the face there in the thickness, and then the other face there. It's about 2'6" wide, that is. That was definitely a wall, I would say. So this would have been like a stair tower. Look at that. That may have been a window mullion that's fallen and just landed there. I don't think that's part of a wall. That's definitely part of a wall there. And then the rubble walling above it. As I say, I think that's probably a stair tower or a lookout tower. It's circular in shape, so we'll go back through the wood. I've actually come off the footpath, so I need to pick up the footpath that we were on, which was on the edge of the wood looking towards Horsley. Ah, look here. Look here. That's proper coarse masonry. Isn't that good? I'm not sure what that is, but I'm not touching it in these circumstances of coronavirus. But that's definitely coarse stone, isn't it, in its original position. And then the wall above has been robbed out, revealing the rubble infill. And there's some more here, look. With the graffiti. I don't know how old the graffiti is. 1875, that one says. But that's moulded. That's like a plinth course there. Then it moulds back, and it rakes back at a slope, and then that's vertical. Another mould in there, and that's the top of the plinth. And then come up here, we can see more. Again, it's work stone. This is it's been sawn into blocks, square face blocks, and that's the rubble that would have been behind it in the infill. So they were pretty thick walls, weren't they? Yeah. I don't think there's a lot of documented history of this. I've got a history of Horsley book which draws on old documents. I think the manor of Horsley was connected to Lenton Abbey and Darley Abbey. A lot of the documents are from those two abbeys. Remarkable to think that that castle was built in the 1100s. A lot of time passed since then in this area, a lot of changes. But this was part of a deer park, Horsley Park, and it was a royal hunting park, stocked with deer and other game. And it would have had a parker, someone to look after the park on behalf of the king. And that's where the surname Parker comes from. Someone who looks after a deer park. So this place has a long, long history, right back to the Norman conquest. Now return to the original path on the edge of the wood. And that's the view. Horsley Church mid-picture. I guess that's Bargate or Oakenwood Gate beyond, and beyond that up the Derwent Valley. I guess Alderwosley, I think. So we'll carry on then up towards the top of the hill. Listen to the bird song. Somebody's been going to be doing some fencing. So that's the view looking back towards Coxbench. And in those trees is the castle. That to me looks like it used to be a quarry, like a pit in the field. It interrupts the natural slope of the land, so I guess that would have been a stone quarry. And likewise here, in fact you can see a rock face there, so plenty of stone still left. There's another, so that would have been quarried. And back out we see the pylons and Horsley Church and Horsley Hall and Horsley Woodhouse beyond under the tree. We'll see if we can get a better view up here. Even though these are ugly, I don't know, they do have something about them. They do make a bit of a blot on the landscape, but when you get close, they're quite impressive. And that's the view we're rewarded with when we get out the wood. Looks like a little corral on the summit, but unfortunately the path we wanted to take is surrounded by horses, and having had previously bad experiences walking through fields with horses, we've decided we're not going to go. So that's looking at Horsley. There's Parkgate Farm in the bottom of the dip, and then as we pan round, just the edge of the golf course, and that's Horsley Woodhouse beyond.
What do you reckon to
But another amazing view on a day like today. And this animal and its friends have put the kibosh on us going down there. Not to worry, we'll take the road, there won't be much traffic on it. We'll, look at that for a pose, eh? I think they've done that deliberately to show off, but it's a nice pose. It's a nice foreground to complement the background. So on the track that takes us to Sandy Lane, we pass Horsley Park Farm, which is still in existence. And again, I think that stone probably came from Horsley Castle. And the stone wall as well. You don't have to travel far anyway from the quarries. Many years ago we used to come up here, they had a little tea room. We used to come and sit outside and have a cup of tea and a cake and look at the view. But the view has actually gone now behind the trees. There's not much of a view at all. So the footpath that just cuts the corner of this track off again goes through a horse field, so we're going to stick to the track. I've got a feeling those concrete posts might have come from Staffordshire. I think that's a Stafford knot. Cast in. Anyway. This is where the lane meets Sandy Lane. And it carries on up there towards Brackley Gate. And we're going left, which will take us back towards Horsley. Laid down these entrance improvements have caused the old footpath sign to be pitched into the hedge bottom. So anybody that doesn't know wouldn't realise that was a public footpath. I think we're going to see some bluebells in this wood on the right. There's a few bluebells down there, but it's not exactly carpeted, and I don't think this wood is going to be carpeted. One of my favourite pastimes when I'm out in the countryside is gate leaning and taking in the view, and this is a good place to do that, because that's the view. what I'm looking at now is Horsley Lodge Golf Club. Car park's completely empty. The clubhouse and the restaurant. Oh, I can just see a white van turning around, so they're having deliveries. But there's nobody on the course. But that's the view. And all that land in front of us was Horsley Deer Park. And that's Sandy Lane where we've just come down. And the view from this gate is again the golf course. I can see Golden Valley Farm, and on the ridge, Main Street, Horsley Woodhouse. And that was the field we were going to come through. You can see on the crest by the pylon the little corral that they've built. Again, all part of the deer park. Horsley Lodge Golf Club again. That's obviously looking east towards Smalley. There's always a nice display of gorse on that bank, and I think that's probably habitat for lots of rabbits, maybe a whitethroat or two. Can't hear anything singing in it at the minute. It's perhaps a bit early for whitethroats. We're coming to the bottom of Sandy Lane now, and we're looking at Horsley Hall at the moment, which was built, I would think, in the last 10 years. It's quite new. It was built on the site of the original Horsley Hall. And it looks well, doesn't it? It looks well sitting there in the trees. And that's Parkgate Farm. I was reading that Parkgate and Brackley Gate were the two entrances to Horsley Deer Park. So that's how Parkgate Farm got its name, because that was the gate to the park. Of course, the park would have been fenced to keep the deer in and to keep poachers out. So that's where one of the entrances to Horsley Park was situated. This little bridge is over Park Brook, again named after Horsley Park. So that's Park Brook there we've just come across, and that carries the water from Gypsy Brook, which runs through the golf course we saw in the previous walk. It comes into Park Brook somewhere in this picture, I'm not quite sure exactly where, but it comes under Smalley Mill Road and joins Park Brook and follows the valley at Coxbench down to Bottlebrook. And after it's joined Bottlebrook, it runs down to the Derwent at Little Eaton, and on its way via the Trent and the Humber to the sea. But that's Sandy Lane. Up to Brackley Gate. And another view of Horsley Hall. And our footpath is just to the right here. Here we go. My companion's waiting for me to make sure I don't miss the turning. So going back uphill again, past Horsley Hall. And this should take us to French Lane, I think, in the village, where the pump and the village hall are located. And as we approach Horsley village, we go past that building, which is Horsley Grange. Looks like the outbuilding could do with a new roof, but the house is in good order. And that's the view back to where the castle is. Sandy Lane, Horsley Park, Brackley Gate. Horsley Hall is behind these trees, just over the hedge. And to the call of a chiff chaff, we come up to French Lane, which will take us into the middle of the village. It was Grange Farm, not Horsley Grange. On the map it's called Horsley Grange, but they've changed it to Grange Farm. Horsley Bowls Club. Children's play area. And football pitch. And that's a view of the rear of Horsley Hall.
Southview Farm. So where the Southview Farm is what they're now calling Horsley Hall.
Oh right.
There.
So that's on the site of Southview Farm.
There. So Southview Farm is now
Horsley Hall.
Horsley Hall. Look at all that buildings.
Yeah, so more knowledge gained. That's the site of Southview Farm, now called Horsley Hall. Bit of an upgrade, I suppose. And that's Grange Farm round there. And this is French Lane. Don't know why it got the name French Lane. So that's the back end of the village hall, which opens right onto the playing field, which is ideal, isn't it? Absolutely ideal. Yeah. And there's the red telephone box straight in front. So we're at the end of French Lane. Blanche the fountain, the ancient pillar box, the village hall, the village school, the village library, the Dovecote, and we're going this way on the main road. And this is Fountain House, which is obviously next to the fountain. It's nice. Coming up to the junction of Smalley Mill Road and Church Street. If you remember, in one of the previous walks we looked at the well there, which was called Rosamond. We're going to go follow the road round to the left. So that's Rosamond from a different angle, looking down Smalley Mill Road. There we go. Rosamond Fountain. And I wish the pub was open, but it's shut, so we can't have a drink. So now we're back on Laidley Road. And that's the path that takes us to the golf course. And this road takes us home. So that's the end of today's walk up to Horsley Castle. We've done about 4 miles, which is remarkable for us. We only do about 2 normally. So we're a bit out of breath, ready for a drink, but we'll soon be home, and we'll see you in the next one. And don't forget, stay safe. 3, 2, 1.